on Lamb Day, which I think is the end of March, the counterfeit Lamb Day, because he will be a dragon, but will speak as a he'll look like a lamb, but he'll speak as a dragon. So it'll be the false counterfeit lamb. So counterfeit Lamb Day. Then that'll kick off the 1290 days, and then 30 days later, you come to April 26, and this is the real Lamb Day. Okay, for people following the real calendar. And on the real Lamb Day, the 1260 days begin. Now, this is the day, 30 days after the abomination of desolation occurs. This is the day in which the two witnesses, which I believe are John and Enoch, who never died, they begin their 1260-day ministry, okay, of preaching against the beast. And they're going to torment the people who take the mark of the beast, because people are going to hate them. So they're going to be the mightiest street preachers ever. And also, by the Royal Lamb Day, the woman, the Revelation 12 woman, will now be safely in the safe place. So all those Philadelphian Christians who are right now scattered across the earth, they're all going to be in one place at that point. So basically, between Purim, early March, until late April, so basically a period of 2 months, we're going to be fleeing from the dragon. It says in Revelation 12 that the dragon, when he's cast to the earth, he's angry. He knows his time is short. He knows he only has about 42 months left, so he's going to immediately try to go after the woman. The woman is going to be given wings as an eagle. The dragon is going to try to cast a flood after her. The earth's going to swallow the flood, and the woman's going to escape. And then the dragon's so upset that then he turns his attention on the remnant of her seed. So the Philadelphian Christians, which is what my ministry talks about, we will be in that safe place by April 26th of 2018 if this were to occur this next year. And this, of course, is also when the 42 months of the beast officially begin. Now, when this abomination of desolation goes down, he's going to issue an 11-month death decree, but it's going to be cut short because Joshua says he has to cut things short or no flesh would survive. So he's actually going to be given 5 months. It's going to be cut short by 6. He's only going to be given 5 months to consolidate his power across the earth and to enforce this mark of the beast. And we know that because when we read about Trumpet 5, it says that it takes him 5 months. So he's going to have a period of 5 months from spring until, basically, I mean, if he starts in late March, then he has April, May, June, July, August. He has the 5 months, basically through the months of Av, to consolidate his power. And then by the fall feast, he'll have consolidated his power as much as he can. And of course, during these next 3.5 years, this is when all the martyrs happen. So it says that the beast is able to prevail over the saints, and he begins to behead every single person who refuses to take the mark. I believe the mark is going to be the Star of David embedded with a chip. And I'm not sure what the image will be, but that's what I think the mark's going to be. A lot of people are going to gladly take it. But at this point, a lot of the backslidden Christians and Messianics are going to finally come back to their first love because they're going to choose to have their head chopped off rather than take this mark. Because they're going to realize that this guy is not the true Messiah. But it's going to be a bloodbath. And for the next 3.5 years, the beast is going to be able to wage war against the saints and win. And he's going to slaughter millions upon billions of people as he rules in a false millennium. So he will rule for the next 3.5 years. And during that 3.5 year period, we're eventually going to get to the 6th trumpet. Well, we're going to have, we're going to eventually get to the 6th trumpet, probably toward the end of the 3.5 years. And the 6th trumpet is when the kings of the east come out. And you can read about this in Daniel chapter 11. It says that toward the end of the son of perdition's reign, he gets tidings from the east and the north. Because China and Russia, who have been, China and Russia attacked the United States because they wanted to be the world superpowers. Well, they got hit pretty badly even though they won. And Israel basically took up the vacuum of the United States and became the de facto ruler of the world. Even more powerful than the United States is right now. And China and Russia really resent that. So toward the end of this 3.5 year period, they're going to make a move against the son of perdition. The son of perdition is going to go out with his power, and he's going to completely wipe out and annihilate Russia and China. Okay? And those who think he's the Christ will think this is the fulfillment of Gog and Magog of Ezekiel 38 and 39. It won't be, but it's described in Revelation. He's going to wipe out Russia and China so that they become as decimated as the United States has been for the past 3.5 years. And basically at that point, there'll just be 5 major nations left, and Israel will be, all powerful. And at that point, the son of perdition will think he has got it made. He's got it made. After that sixth trumpet, you got seven thunders that we don't know about. They may have something to do with what the two witnesses are doing toward the end of their ministry. But we do know that after those seven thunders, that those two witnesses are slaughtered. They are killed. And for 3.5 days, they are lying dead in the streets. And everyone who's taken the mark of the beast is rejoicing. And the son of perdition is at the peak of his arrogance at this point. And then, finally, at the very end of this 3.5-year period, so from Purim 2018, now we come to the fall of 2021, which is 3.5 years later. In the fall of 2021, you come to the Feast of Trumpets. And there's a 10-day period between the Feast of Trumpets and the Yom Kippur. And that, of course, happens every fall. Sometime during the days of that seventh trumpet, those two witnesses are going to rise from the grave. All the dead Messiah that have ever died, both in the Old and New Testaments, they're going to rise from their grave, including King David, including everyone that's ever been martyred. And then we who are alive and remain in the safe place, we also will be caught up. And we're going to get caught up to be with Yahshua. And it's going to be very visible. It's going to be a huge earthquake. It says over 7,000 die in Jerusalem, and the rest repent and give glory to Yah. So there's finally a revival of the Jews in Jerusalem. And it's a huge earthquake because all these graves are exploding. And we get resurrected. And we get to meet Yahshua. And we're with Yahshua in the clouds. And at that point, we are with him in heaven. Through Yom Kippur, through Sukkot, we're keeping the marriage of the Lamb. We are not on earth. During that time, those 7 plagues get poured out, or the 7 vials. They get poured out on the seed of the beast. And they are bad plagues, but they begin to get poured out and they start destroying the kingdom of the beast. I mean, literally, now the son of perdition is beginning to get knocked down. They don't repent, but a lot of the people who have the mark get killed. Because there's some really, really bad plagues, including all water, ocean, and streams and lakes get turned to blood, so there's no drinkable water. You got these 100-pound hailstones that fall, which you can't hide from unless you go down deep into the earth. You got darkness. You got all the sun scorching. I mean, just horrible 7 plagues that happen, I think, very quickly. And then, on the last great day of Sukkot, in the fall of 2021, that is when we, in our resurrected bodies, follow Yahshua on a white horse. And we, with his angelic hosts, we follow him down to earth on the last great day in the fall of 2021. So that would be the 8th day of the Feast of Sukkot, which happens about 22 days after trumpets. So on that day, we come down, and with the brightness of his coming and the breath of his mouth, he destroys the son of perdition. He puts the son of perdition, the false prophet, the beast, into the lake of fire. He kills all the armies of the beast that have gathered for Armageddon to challenge Yahshua, and he destroys them all, and everyone with the mark of the beast dies at that point. And then Satan and all of his devils, they are put into the bottomless pit. And now Yahshua begins his 1,000-year reign. And I'm going to have to erase this so I can continue with my timeline. So I hope everyone's following me so far. Again, this is hypothetical if the Great Tribulation were to begin this next winter. I don't know if it will or not, but if it did, this is how the timeline would unfold. So Yahshua has now returned to earth. He's landed on the Mount of Olives, as it says in Zechariah 14. The Mount of Olives, of course, splits into an earthquake, and we return with him in our resurrected bodies, and now all the nations who did not come up against Jerusalem, who survived the Great Tribulation, but they didn't take the mark of the beast, and they also, didn't get caught up in the rapture at that 7th trumpet, they're in their mortal bodies, and we now rule over them. In our resurrected immortal bodies, we are now living, ruling, and reigning with Messiah for 1,000 years. Again, this is in the fall of 2021. A couple of months later, in Hanukkah of 2021, which, usually that occurs in December or January, depending on the year. I'm not exactly sure when Hanukkah happens in 2021. I'll have to look that up. But in Hanukkah of 2021, this is when the dedication of Ezekiel's temple would happen. And this will be the temple that Yahshua will rule and reign from for 1,000 years. Okay? David will be the prince that's described in Ezekiel. So he'll be a prince over probably Israel proper. Yahshua, of course, will be the king of the whole earth. And then we who rule and reign with him, the resurrected saints, we will be ruling over various parts of the earth, over the mortals who live and die and have babies and multiply and turn into the nations over the next 1,000 years. It is during this period that all nations will be commanded to come up to Israel for the Feast of Sukkot, and if they don't, they're not going to receive any rain. Yahshua will enforce the Torah with a rod of iron and will swiftly bring justice upon anyone who doesn't obey the Torah. And this will be the 1,000-year reign of Messiah. So Israel will be turned into Eden, and living waters will gush out, both toward the Hinder Sea and the former sea, to heal the earth. And so for 1,000 years, no war, no disease, no famine, perfect government. We'll be ruling and reigning with him, and the peoples of the earth will multiply into the trillions, because you'll have 1,000 years of no war, no human selfishness will be severely checked, and there'll be no demonic activity. Sometime after the fall of 3021, that would be 1,000 years later. At some point after this, we don't know, no one knows the day or the hour, but at some point after that, Satan is re-released, along with his fallen angels. He's re-released from the bottomless pit, and he's allowed to deceive all those who were born during the millennium that never really were tested, because they've lived in this perfect environment with Yahshua as the king. They've never been tempted by the devil before, and so they're going to be tested. And unfortunately, Satan is able to deceive so many of them, even though they've had 1,000 years of living under Yahshua's perfect government, that the amount of people he's able to deceive is like the sand of the sea, and he's going to gather them to make war against the camp of the saints at Jerusalem. Well, he doesn't get very far, because as he's coming down to the camp of the saints, fire from heaven comes down from Yahweh and consumes Satan and his fallen angels and all those he deceives. And immediately the heavens and earth flee away, because Yahweh takes up his great white throne, and you have what's known as the great white throne judgment. And again, this is at some point after 3021. At this point, the heavens and earth have passed away. They flee away from his face. And then all the wicked who've ever lived are resurrected, as well as anyone, whether they were wicked or righteous, who were born and died during the millennial kingdom. Because we're all going to be resurrected. It's not just the righteous. Because remember, Daniel says the righteous will be resurrected to eternal life, and the wicked to eternal damnation. So Adolf Hitler will get a new body, Joseph Stalin, all the wicked will be resurrected. At this point, Yahshua takes all the wicked that are resurrected, and he casts them into the lake of fire. He takes Satan, that old devil, the serpent, and all of his fallen angels, and they're put in the lake of fire. They're not just in the abyss, they're in the eternal lake of fire. They're never going to escape. And then anyone who was born and died during the millennium who is wicked and died in their sins, he's going to put them in the lake of fire. But anyone who was born and died in the millennium who put their faith in Yahshua, they're going to be resurrected and join us. And finally, all of Israel will be resurrected at that point. So the great white throne judgment will then end. All death, hell, sin, all that stuff is going to be put in the lake of fire. We did have some measure of sin going on during the millennial kingdom, some rebellion, although it's severely checked. Not like it is now where it's just out of control. But at this point, at the great white throne judgment, Yom Kippur is finally fulfilled, and all the sin, death, hell, it's all been put in the lake of fire. Satan and his angels will burn and be tormented forever and ever, and so will all the wicked. In their resurrected bodies, they will burn and torment forever and ever. At that point, we have the new heavens and new earth. Again, this all happens sometime after 3021. We don't know, because really time doesn't have any meaning anymore. So the new heavens and new earth now happen. There's no temple therein, because Yah and the Lamb are the temple therein. Parts of the Torah have now passed away, because Yahshua said, until heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle from the Torah will pass away. So parts of the Torah now pass away, because there's going to be no temple, so there'll be no more animal sacrifices. We'll still keep the Hebrew feasts like Passover, but we won't be slaughtering a lamb to do so. So some parts of Torah at this point will pass away. And at this point, Yahshua of Nazareth, who has been ruling for the last 1,000 years, he's now going to deliver up the kingdom to his father, Yahweh. And now the fullness of Yahweh and all his glory is going to descend with that new Jerusalem, which is going to be 1,500 miles high and 1,500 miles wide. There'll be no more sea, and the new heavens and new earth basically is Sukkot fulfilled. And Paul says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind can imagine the good things that Yah's prepared for his people. So, of course, you have those living crystal waters that will be gushing out from the throne with the tree of life that will bear fruit every month for the healing of the nations. No more weeping, no more sin. It is Eden restored with the new Jerusalem in perfection. And now it's the 8th millennium that we've entered into that is Israel without end. So that's the 8th millennium, the new beginning. And that's the fulfillment of that last great day, the 8th day. Again, that all happened sometime after the year 3021. So I hope that timeline sort of puts into a